Hello, everyone. This is Fernando with Next Turn Realty. Thank you for joining my webinar. Um, I appreciate you guys. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Again, I do all this as a reminder, making sure that you guys are connected with Google Chat and our Facebook private group. That way you can receive communications of our activities and events and trainings that we have. Also making sure you submit all your paperwork to contract compliance on time. Either as soon as you have a listing, don't wait. That way we can catch errors much faster. Post questions on via our Google chat. We have many agents, 120 or so, that we all have different expertises, and we can assist and help and guide. There's a lot of leaders that we have too in our realm. Make sure you're signed up with Lofty CRM, Prime Street Leads, and again, always always contact one of our leaders, team members for any assistance. You're not alone. So, in this webinar, we're going to be focusing on how to prepare your buyer before submitting an offer, how to make the offer more competitive in a multi-offer situation, how to submit it professionally and communicate with the listing agent, and then which TREC contracts and addendas you should use for compliance, some best practices, and then Q&A. Again, you can always interrupt me throughout the webinar if you have a question. So one thing that we need to do whenever we work with buyers is to set buyers' expectations early. So when you meet with someone, you're talking to someone that's interested in purchasing a property, talk to them about different aspects of the buying process. Explain to them too, if there's a multiple offer situation, what does it really mean? Again, there's more competition, there's faster timelines. Also discuss with them the market conditions of that particular subdivision or area. What are the realistic price ranges? Also ask the buyers, be an inquisitive mind, what are the must-haves versus the nice-to-have, to avoid hesitation later. It's very important that the buyer tells you, oh, I'm looking for a specific type of flow in the rooms or neighborhoods or close to a school, close to work, close to a certain access to the freeway. And again, the last thing is, which is the most important thing and should be first, is have a pre-approval or proof of funds ready before touring the home. I have a saying that when I work with my agents is, my mentees is, show me the money. I also tell them, no dinero, no show. And they kind of go, what? I go, no dinero, no show. And they're like, oh, gotcha. So again, making sure that they're pre-approved. And one thing that you're trying to do there establishes what is their buying power. What is their gift card, for example? If the gift card is $1,000, is the gift card $10,000? What exactly is the buying power? And that's why it's important to know to receive a pre-approval or proof of funds, which is a cash. So if there is a competitive offer that you're trying to place, some buyers are saying, or may inform you that, man, we really like this house. We don't want to lose it. We've been eyeing it for a while, or we love that subdivision. What can we do to make our offer more tempting, more accepting to the seller? One is, of course, the financing strength. You probably hear, oh, conventional, FHA, VA, and there's a seller's perception that FHA and VA are less attractive to a seller. People wonder why is that the case as far as the perception. The reason why is because FHA and VA sometimes ask for restrictions. In other words, they protect the buyers. And if the house is not safe, or there's a problem like mold, or wood rot in the back door, or the air conditioner is not working quite well, or the roof issue, FHA appraiser will say, oh, the house will appraise at this price as long as the seller fixes these particular items, these issues. And it's like a force to the seller where they have to do the repairs in order for the house to appraise. And some sellers don't want to go through that headache. And that's why there's that seller's perception that they prefer receiving a conventional or cash, which is often stronger than the others. Also, the pre-qualify, there's pre-qualification letters. Those are less attractive than the pre-approval. Also, the escrow and the option money. Typically we've been working with, or we've been hearing about, it's a 1%, which is typical of the total sales price. But if the buyer produces 2 or 3%, that's not the norm. Then it shows that the buyer is a stronger candidate, and they're real serious about that offer. So that's also enticing to the seller. Also, a higher option fee. Typically it's always like $150, or we usually say $10 a day for 10 days. I'm sorry, $15 a day. But if you have a higher option fee, that's also an attraction to the seller, that you're willing to lose that money, and it's a commitment. Another one that we use as leverage is the shorter option period. Typically, we always do 10 days. But if you wanted to make it more enticing to the seller, especially if there's a competition where there's another offer that they're reviewing, lessen that, make it a 5-day option period or a 3-day option period. Of course, this is going to be a rush where make sure the inspector is aligned to be there during those 3 days or prior. Like that, you can get the inspection report and then review it and then negotiate. So it's more of a rush job between the buyers and the sellers and all that. But that's also an attraction that the seller likes to see. Also, the offer price. Right now it's a buyer's market, so we can have that option to submit a lesser offer. Like if it's, we can do a 10,000 less or 15,000 less from list price. But if there's a competition, where there's 2 or 3 buyers trying to submit an offer on the same property, then it becomes a competition where you cannot, or you should not offer less. You should offer either list price or above list price. So it all depends on the situation. Another one that's a really strong offer as far as leverage is the appraisal gap. There are situations where if the property doesn't appraise at a market value, and let's just say that the sales price is $300,000 and it appraises for less, is the buyer willing to pay the difference? Or is the seller willing to lower to that market value, appraised value? So that's another leverage you can use too. Is the buyers willing to negotiate? And do they have extra money to pay for that difference if it doesn't appraise? Also, another thing that a buyer can negotiate is the title policy insurance. Usually we always have the seller choose the preferred title company because they're paying for the title policy insurance. But what if the buyer says, you know what, I'll pay for the title policy insurance? That's also an enticement for the seller, saying, oh, wow, that's one less expense that we have to pay for. And that's also very, it's a good leverage for the seller going, oh, wow. I mean, for the buyer, where the seller goes, oh, wow, that's one less thing to pay for. Another one that's really important is the closing date. We typically go out 45 calendar days. And that's a typical, if it's FHA, for example, or VA. Maybe conventional, we can do 30. It all depends on the lender. But we can maybe do 25-day closing date. Of course, please get approved by the lender, ensuring that that's possible. But that's also a good um, strategy that you can use when presenting an offer. Other times is sellers sometimes need leasebacks where they didn't realize that they were going to sell their house that quickly, and they need time to move, and they require a week or 2 weeks, after closing to move. Or sometimes they require some money as well to move. Have the buyer be structured that way where they can accept a lease back, so like that the sellers can stay post closing if needed. So that's also helpful for the seller side, which makes the buyer look good. Another thing is that I've been noticing is, and I've been working with students and other agents, is we need to ensure that whenever we submit the contract offer, that is complete, the complete package. Either one PDF file, because Dotloop allows you to merge all the files into one, or if you're using zip forms or transaction desk, you can also send them separate, but try to only send one email. Please don't send 5,000 emails for your offer. Be organized, make sure all the pertinent files are there, the documents, and only send one file. Okay. And also, I noticed that sometimes agents forget to attach the pre-approval letter or the proof of funds, and then the buyer, the sellers, the listing agent says, "Hey, where's the proof of funds? Where's the pre-approval letter?" And they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, this and that." And this is really bad situation if there's a multiple offer situation. The sellers are going to start reviewing one of the documents that is all complete and not reviewing yours until yours is complete. And you may have that situation where they decide to choose the other one because they're more organized. Okay, so be organized yourself. And then on your email communication, write a short, clear email to the listing agent. Recap the terms and the bullet points. Mention financing strength, short timelines, and earnest monies amounts. Also call or text to confirm receipt of the email offer. There's some agents that just send the email and they have no idea if it went into the spam folder or the trash folder, and then they're wondering what happened, and then they contact the listing agent, and the listing agent says, "Oh, we already accepted an offer." Well, guess what happened there? The buyers get really upset, and I don't know if you're going to tell them that the email was never received, but you don't look good. So as soon as you send the email offer, you can text them or call them and say, "Hey, just want to make sure you got the email." That's all. Communication tips: be pleasant, respectful, professional. Don't be pushy. Ask what's important to the seller before writing the offer. You can always call the listing agent, say, "Hey, my buyers, we just went to go see the house. Looks good. They're considering submitting an offer. What's important to the seller to see? What are they looking for? Are you guys working with any multiple offer situations? What's the story?" And then that way it helps you with submitting a better offer, because you were able to communicate with the listing agent. Keep up follow-ups, polite and not excessive. Also, one thing I've been noticing is that some agents are not responsive. They're MIA, missing in action. Be available for the quick responses if seller counters. I know, we're all busy and we all have busy lives and all that, but you can always text. You can always say, "Hey, I'm in a meeting," or, "Hey, can I answer you back at 3 o'clock or after 5 o'clock?" But say something. Don't say anything. So because that will not work in your favor as a buyer agent, and you might lose your deal. Common mistakes to avoid, submitting incomplete offers or missing signatures. There's times where, um, you know, uh, you forgot to turn in the third party financing addendum, or you forgot to turn in the seller's disclosure, or they forgot to initial 3 or 4 pages of the seller's disclosure. All that, it does not look good as a buyer agent. So make sure that you check and double check and triple check. What I usually suggest my students is to read the contract backwards, meaning you start on page 10, then go to page 9, then go to page 8, then go to page 7. And when you do that, you'll find corrections needed much quicker. So that's a good way of a technique to do that. Unrealistic lowball offers, especially in the hot market. If you find out that that subdivision is very popular and the buyers go, oh, I want to offer $50,000 less, you can tell them, look, let's run a CMA, comparables, and you see how the price ranges are. And if they still are adamant about submitting a 50,000 less, you can try it, but tell them that the listing agent is probably going to ignore you. Oh, they shouldn't, but they might. Or long option periods or financing periods, than the standard ones that we tend to use, the norm, without justification. It's not just because. An example might be, oh, I want a 15-day option period. Well, that's not going to fly very well. You need to find out, you need to inform the listing agent why the 15-day option period. What's the reasoning for that? What kind of tests are they going to be running? Also, one thing that I noticed too is that agents, buyer agents, do not actually read the agent remarks inside the MLS listing. I don't know why they don't read it, but we spend a lot of time as listing agents to write stuff in there, write information that's pertinent to the transaction, where we might say, hey, here's our broker information. Oh, hey, the seller is only asking for 7-day option period. Or, hey, there's an offer instructions. And I don't know why the buyer agent doesn't read that. And then when they submit the offer, the listing agent's going, it's incomplete. Or where's this at? Or where's this other thing at? And if there's another offer that comes in that's perfect, guess what? They're going to pick that one instead, because you're very sloppy and you did not read the instructions. So make sure you read the MLS agent remarks. While I'm going to the demo, let me know if there's any questions. Okay. I see no questions, so we'll move forward.
Actually, Fernando.
Yes, sir.
I learned something that I want to share with the group, but I want to just a scenario that happened and I didn't know. I think everybody needs to know that. So we know we have option period, right?
Correct.
On that option period, we try to negotiate buyer with the seller. Okay.
Correct.
But then we sign and send them the addendum, but like tomorrow or today at 5 o'clock is the last day and they have not sent a signed addendum. What should we do?
Right. So in that scenario, very good question. So let me repeat the question. Let's just say that the option period is about to expire and there's no agreement via the amendments. For example, if it's a repair or something like that, or they were asking for seller's concessions in lieu of repairs. What you're supposed to do is prepare the buyer to submit a termination of contract. Get that ready, because you need to protect the buyer's earnest money. Okay. Do not trust anybody.
Excellent.
Do not trust humans. Humans are interesting creatures, and do not trust them. I don't care. Yeah, I don't care how oh, he's a top producer, oh, he loves the world, blah, blah, blah. So what you do is you tell the buyers, and that's why you need to set expectations as well and always be in communication. So what I do personally and what I strongly suggest is have the buyers sign a termination of contract and then inform the listing agent that you're going to be sending that at 4:50 p.m. if I don't hear back.
Okay.
And
Good.
then, right.
Fernando, there's more. You send it at 4:50, right? You
Correct.
send it to the buyer agent.
Correct. No, to the listing agent.
I mean, listing agent. Yes, listing agent.
Correct.
At 4:55, he signed the amendment and sent it back to you.
Yeah. So in that particular case, it's an agreement between both of y'all that you're going to void out the termination. Like you can do a void or not acceptance or whatever it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is something I thought, but it happens to another agent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what they call the hotline, that's why I want to share it with everybody. Need to know that, even I didn't know it. They call the hotline. So this happened to one of the agents, right?
Right.
And everything was going toward closing. A week before closing, the buyer decided to back out.
Right.
Right? By law, he should lose the earnest money, right?
Well, I don't like to use the word law, but yes.
By the TREC rule,
He's in default. Yes.
Yes. Okay. But
So
he got the full earnest money back, because when they call the TREC hotline, right?
Yes.
By law, by TREC rule, not that by law, by TREC rule, every time you send a termination to the buyer, to the listing agent, right? After that, all the document has to be re-signed again.
Yes.
New contract has
That
to
is
be
correct.
submitted with new.
Exactly. New contract, everything has to be resubmitted again. And
Correct.
that's how they got out of the, they break the contract, and they did not penalize for the earnest money, and they got the earnest money back.
Wow. So since the buyers send a termination of contract, and then
at 4:50 send a termination contract. At 4:55 they signed the amendment and send it back.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And everything was normal. But when they back out, they said, no.
Yeah.
Since you send a termination after, you cannot say I void it and forget about it. No.
Right.
It has to be re-signed and resubmitted.
Yeah,
So,
that's the TREC rule. If as soon as you send the termination, all the contract goes away. You have to send a new contract.
so it's advisable that when you do a termination of contract, just start all over again.
It happened to one of our agents. Danielle sent I think Danielle sent it and they didn't accept, even though that he said after that, oh, I didn't want to send it, it's done.
Right. Yep. Good point. Thank you for that.
Another thing, when you send the contract and for some reason they reject your offer and they give you a counter offer, they cannot go sign the same contract that they have. So there is a new contract needs to be submitted.
Correct.
So if they give you a counter, you cannot use the same one, and they cannot just sign it and say, okay, we decided to go with your offer. As soon as they reject, it's reject.
Right. Yeah. When they do a counter offer, the seller does a counter offer, that offer that was submitted to them is no longer valid. That's correct. You got to start all over again. Yep. And re-sign it. Yes. Good point. Okay, so here's a contract, 1 of 4, and so it's just sort of a summary of what I just spoke about. One is the sales price, make it competitive. Again, it's how much down payment. That also looks, enticing to the seller. even though the seller's not receiving the down payment. But if it's a very high down payment, it shows that you have money as a buyer. Okay. So the higher the down payment, the more the seller goes, oh, they're pretty well off as far as able to purchase. They're financially stable. If they see like 3.5% from a FHA, then they're going, oh boy, And typically, lenders that work with FHA, they tend to go. Hey, also the lender will usually tell the buyers, oh, also ask the seller to give you seller's concessions as well. So that does not look good on the seller side, but it's helpful for the buyer. Okay. Another trigger is, again, like I said, the earnest money. The higher the earnest money, a deposit of earnest money, it demonstrates to the seller that of their serious intent to purchase a property. So the higher the earnest money, the better it looks. And then the option money is that shows a commitment. The higher the option money also is like, hey, we're willing to lose this money if we back out. Again, the termination option, paragraph 5B, you can decrease the 10 because we typically put 10, but you can put 3 or 5, and that also makes it look good for the seller side. And also the title policy insurance, who's paying for it? You can also split the half and half. You can select both of these boxes, seller and buyer, and split the 50-50. Now, if you want to know what a title policy insurance costs, you can always go to a website. You can just Google title policy or title premium calculator. Doesn't really matter. Just type something, and you can always just type in the number for the sales price. And once you do that, of course, it's in residential. Over here, it tells you what the title policy is, and so you can kind of tell what it is. And so this is very helpful for the buyers. If the buyers are thinking about paying for the title policy, they can then see, the total cost, and then that's part of their closing costs on the buyer side. Okay. So that's important too. So you can negotiate with the buyers that they want to pay for it. Also, this additional 6A 8II, it's called shortages in areas. This is an additional cost. It costs about 5% of the total title policy. So, for example, if it's $2,074.60, you would just multiply that by 5%, and that comes out to $103.70. So not that much, and it's a one-time fee. And this is for the title company to cover additional financial loss due to a property being smaller than described in the survey. Sometimes they call it a survey amendment. So if the survey indicates that there's a problem where encroachment, where the neighbor next door is stealing land from one of the corners of the property, this is a protection for that. It's not to resolve the problem. Keep in mind, it's not to resolve it, but it's just an added protection. And I always suggest the buyers to ensure that this is selected as a default. It's very helpful. I usually tell my students, let's see if the seller will pay for it first. But if you're in a competitive situation, then it's better to select buyer. Again, it only costs $150 or well, in this case, it's $103. It's not that much, so one-time fee, and I always suggest that. I also suggest that too when it's land or an old home, like the Heights, because back in the old days they didn't really have the technology to ensure that the property lines were aligned correctly. So it's a good added protection. The survey, who's paying for the survey? Usually surveys cost anywhere from $375 to $575, but it also depends on the, if it's a 10 acres or 20 acres. So that's a big cost that, and who's going to pay for that? Typically we always ask the the seller to provide, within 2 days. And if the if the title company doesn't approve because there was some changes on the property line, then the buyer pays for it. But again, if you want, not to have a cost for the seller, you can always select number 2 and say that the buyer will pay for it. And that's a less headache for the seller side. Is a survey required? In my mind, you should always have a survey. Lenders typically require a survey, but even if it's cash, I always strongly suggest to do a survey, because the survey is going to indicate visually what is what property the buyer is buying. There's an outline. Objections. This is not really part of the an offer, but I just wanted to suggest that please try to use objections, because I still see people typing the word residential use, and we no longer use that. We suggest you put something in here, like if it's an investment home, like Airbnb. If the buyers are going to have raised chickens, because the cost of eggs, they might want chickens. Or sometimes there's 2 families living in the house because nobody can afford a house by themselves. So there might be 6 cars, or maybe they want a metal shed, or they want an underground swimming pool. This is this is a good protection for the buyer, because if the property, HOA or the county doesn't allow any of this, they can back out and get their earnest money back. So it's a very good protection for the buyers. Again, this is not part of the negotiation part, but I would stress to ensure that you're using this verbiage. Of course, if they don't care about any of this as far as the buyers, then just leave it blank. But we're not using residential use anymore. Again, HOA, this is not really part of the negotiations, but I just want to make sure that you guys or the buyers know that there is a homeowners association or not. Also, I have been noticing that sometimes when we submit an offer, we're not checking to see if there's a mud district, water district. So this is based on the tax records, and you can see it there. You can always go to Matrix and then access a property, and it'll tell you if there's a mud or not. Let's see this one. I don't think any of these have it. But in the tax records, it'll show if there is a mud or not. I don't have it here. Anyway, I thought I had that set up. I can show you in a minute after this. Seller's disclosure. I'll make sure that you select one of those. Again, this is not part of the negotiations, but it is also to make the packet complete. Buyer says the property is. We usually select that. Okay, so now another thing that the buyers can do as far as negotiations is, do they want the sellers to pay for home warranty? Back in the old days, we used to have $500 on this line, but now it's gone up. So now American Home Shield and other home warranty companies, they're on average are about $650 per year. This is a residential service contract, which we also call home warranty, and this is paid by the seller at closing. But the buyers are able to choose out of 10 companies or 15 companies who they want to be under the warranty service. Again, if the buyers don't want to make their offer more attractive, is they can remove the $650 and just leave $0. Okay. Again, closing date too is, how fast do you want to close? That's also very helpful in having the seller accept our offer, because they're like, oh, we don't have to wait that long. And if the seller is requiring a lease back, and they're saying, "Oh man, we didn't think we were going to sell this house that fast." Instead of selecting upon closing and funding, you can select this other one called according to a temporary residential lease. So you would select that in order for you to accept the seller staying there after closing. Okay, so the nitty gritty of a contract is, the commission, or I should say compensation. We typically put 3.0% in our offer. There is one of my students that I've been noticing that he's been getting offers accepted much faster compared to other buyer agents, where he's always putting 2.5%. And when I saw that, I was like, interesting. He's asking for 2.5 rather than 3. Now you don't have to do that, but that also makes the contract more attractive, because the seller's going, oh, this buyer agent, he only wants 2.5, and all the other buyer agents want 3.0.
That's nice, and it shows how flexible he is.
Yep. I've been noticing that, and he submitted 2 offers, and he got both of them accepted. 2 different houses, 2 different buyers, of course. But I was like, I never thought about that. Now, another thing is,
Fernando, sorry. So is that somehow maybe he in his presentation with the buyer that he has 2.5? Is that the reason? Because if it has 2.5 with his buyer, he cannot put 3% here.
right, his buyer rep agreement says 2.5 as well.
And if it is 3 and he wants to change it to 2.5, he needs to let his buyer know that he's getting less money.
Yep.
Yeah. So his buyer rep agreement says 2.5 is my point. So he's already established expectations before they went to go see a house, that his strategy is to ask the seller for 2.5 commission. And he's telling the buyers, this is how we can get this offer accepted, as far as one mechanism, one strategy.
Or you can do it the other way. You can put 4% if you want. If there's
Oh, yeah.
if the house is not selling, you can put 4%. I want to get 4% for this because I'm bringing a buyer.
And also, it doesn't have to be 2.5. It could be 2.75.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
It's all
So-
negotiable now.
Yeah. So sellers concessions, typically FHA lenders are always asking the buyer agent, hey, can you ask for money? This and that. That's a negative perception on the seller side. But if it's needed, we just still do it. But again, this is not good. So if this field was blank with a 0, then it was more attractive. Okay. I know this paragraph is very confusing to people, because I've gotten where they go, oh, but Fernando, it says here to be applied to other business expenses and all. But I want you to read this up here. It says seller's expenses. Seller shall pay the following expenses.
Fernando,
Yes.
excuse me. What did you say was a negative perception?
If this is $5,000,
Oh, okay.
because the seller needs to cough up and carve out from his net proceeds $5,000 and give it to the bucket that belongs to the buyer.
Okay.
So if the seller was receiving net $100,000 after he sold the house, now it's $95,000,
Mm-hmm.
and he won't be able to go to Hawaii or to buy another house. So that's why it's negative. It's positive on the buyer side, right? Because if the buyer is bringing $15,000 to closing, do you think he has to bring 15,000 or what? Or he brings 10?
But he has to bring what?
If the lender and the title company says, hey, buyer, when you come to the closing table, bring a check or wire transfer of $15,000. But in his contract, it says the seller is going to credit him $5,000.
Mhm.
How much money does he have to bring now? 10.
Yeah.
Because he got money from the seller side.
Mhm.
So it's positive on the buyer side, right?
Right.
Now, is it negative on the seller side?
Yes.
Why is it negative on the seller side?
If he's losing money.
Exactly.
Sometimes
So-
Fernando is positive because they raise the price and they put this one so they can get their loan approved.
Yes. So there is a strategy where if FHA or VA lender says, man, we really need 5,000 because they don't have that much money, the buyers, then you can add the 5,000 on top of the $100,000 right here. So
Can
instead of it being 100,000, you can say 105. Now that becomes a wash, right?
And that way the seller would agree with that because you put the 5,000. If they're asking for 100,000 and you give them 105 and you're asking for a seller's concession for 5,000, that it says, okay, I'm getting it, I'm receiving it and I'm giving it back.
Right.
Yeah. So then it becomes 105,000.
So the house sells 105. And
Huh?
then, so then, what else? Okay, so the seller still gets 100 and the buyer still gets 5.
Correct. It
But
becomes
is
funny.
does the buyer want it to be 105? So then that means they're financing 105.
Correct.
No, they're financing
100.
Oh, 100, because they're gonna put the 5 towards that. Okay, I get it.
And it has to go toward closing. It cannot go more than closing costs.
Yeah,
It cannot go toward their down payment because down payment has to come up with the buyer.
thank you. Appreciate you.
oh yeah, this is good. I love it. Makes me think. Okay, so that's important. So I want everybody to just say in their minds when they go to bed at night, Fernando said paragraph 12A1B is where we negotiate our commission. 12A1B is where we negotiate our commission. 12A1B is where we negotiate our compensation. Okay.
12A1B is where we put our commission for.
Yeah, that's right.
And then,
Well, it's negotiation, but yeah, correct. Another thing, this is not part of the negotiation thing, but notices is very important. I've been noticing that usually these are blank. I don't know why they're blank. I don't understand why they're blank. But if you read the first paragraph here where it says notices, it says all notices from one party to the other must be in writing and are effective when mailed to, hand delivered at, and transmitted by fax or electronic transmission. Well, we don't have that, but anyway, I mean fax. So what Vahid said earlier about, hey, Fernando, when we submit a termination of contract, you know, we're really supposed to follow these emails that are in here for all notices. So in Vahid's example about sending a termination of contract, we need to send it where what says here in these emails, because it has to do with notices.
and those are important. I know that sometimes the other side can go and steal your client, but it's not even worth it for losing your license, because if they want to send the termination or some sort of information to the seller or the buyer, they're not going to be able, and then you're going to be reliable. And if you don't answer your phone, oh my God, that's going to come
Yeah.
up. Yeah. For example, we had a situation that the agent got fired by the buyer, by the seller. And then we could not get our earnest money because we didn't have the seller's email address at all.
It's terrible. Yeah. So, let's see, anything else? Don't use this page 10. Don't use that. Let's see. The other thing is the third-party financing. You have a couple of choices that we normally use. There's conventional financing. There's FHA insured financing. There's VA guaranteed financing. You have to pick one of those, depending on what the lender's pre-approval letter says. And typically we always say 30 years, 1%, interest rates, all that. But whenever the seller receives the contract offer, they're going to go to this third-party financing addendum and go, okay, what type of financing is it? Again, the perception is FHA and VA are not as great as conventional. That's just a perception. So keep that in mind. But here's where we would fill that out, and this is important. If you're doing hard money loans, there's going to be cases where you have to do hard money lending. You can use this other financing right here. And they added this other financing, they meaning TREC and HAR, or TREC. They added this paragraph because we were doing hard money loans and we didn't know where to put it at. And we were doing it as cash, which is not true. So you can use this paragraph right here if you want to do hard money loans or lend. Yeah. So if the buyers are using a hard money lender, use this paragraph. Okay. Again, leverage, we typically put 21 days for buyer to obtain buyer approval by the lender. That's typical, 21 days, but if you want it to be more enticing to the seller, maybe you can put 14 days. Again, the lender has to tell you this. Lenders are in charge. You can't make up a day. You're a realtor, you're not a lender. So if you ask the lender, hey man, I heard that there's multiple offers and my buyers really want this house, or you can just say my buyers really want this house. Can we do less than 21 days? And the lender says, sure, man, 14 days is good. One time I saw that, or I experienced where I was representing a buyer and we had submitted 3 or 4 offers. And then we would submit the first one and we backed out during the option period. Then we submitted another one and so on and so forth. What was happening in that case is the lender and the underwriters had been reviewing their file and everything started looking really good towards the buyer. So when I spoke to the lender, I said, hey man, is there a way we can reduce this 21 days? He goes, you know what, Fernando? The underwriters have been reviewing their file and we just haven't had we just never locked into a house. I mean, we can even do, 10 days. He says, because they're pretty much almost fully approved. We just need a house, is what he said. So he goes, find the house and let's do it. I said, oh, okay, cool. Well, we end up doing 14 days anyway, but if the underwriters Ali can attest to this, if the underwriters can do a full approval by using the underwriters somehow, to see how strong the buyers are, that might be a better suited to reduce the 21 days to 14 days.
As long as you close it before 10 days, more than 10 days is feasible, because it's going to be illegal if you close it
right
in 10 days.
But that's a good way of winning an offer. Yeah. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is the right to terminate due to lender's appraisal. This is a very important document that I always highly suggest we use, especially if it's conventional loans. And if you read up here, underneath the word addendum concerning right to terminate, you see the phrase, use only if the third-party financing addendum is attached to the contract and it does not involved FHA or VA guaranteed financing. Okay, so we do not use this for FHA or VA. The reason why we don't use the appraisal addendum is because right here on paragraph 4, this has to do for the appraisal. So FHA and VA have their own paragraph for the appraisal of the house, you know, if it doesn't appraise or must appraise. So that's the reason why we don't use that form, because it's already embedded inside the third party financing. So this is only for conventional. Now, the one that I always highly recommend to use is the one called additional right to terminate. This protects the buyers if the property doesn't approve. So, for example, if the property approves at 90,000 only, then the buyers can back out and say, you know what, no, you know, or the sellers can say, no, I'll lower the price to 90, you know, reducing the price. So there's room for negotiations. But if both buyer and sellers don't agree on anything, as you can see, this paragraph, it says if buyer terminates under this paragraph, the earnest money will be refunded to the buyer. Okay. Now, if the buyer wants to be competing better and does not want to do that, they can always use these other options. They're waivers or partial waivers. But this one obligates, the reason why I don't like to use these two paragraphs is because it obligates to purchase the property and pay the difference between the appraised value and this, you know, and the sales price. So the buyer here has to pay the lender or pay the difference between the two. So I don't really like to recommend that. But it makes your offer much better too, because you're not saying, hey, I'm going to back out if it doesn't appraise. Okay. All right, great.
So,
Go ahead.
so Fernando, that form is only to be used for a conventional loan, right?
Correct.
Okay, got it. I learned
Yeah.
something new.
Great.
And
Yeah.
and you should always use it. You should always use it because they're gonna lose their earnest money.
Yep. And I love this phrase here. If buyer terminates under this paragraph 3, the earnest money will be refunded to the buyer.
So Leslie, on a FHA, this one is already inside the FHA.
Yes.
So you
Right.
don't have to have it. But when you are doing conventional, make sure always, I would make it mandatory
Yeah.
to use it, because your buyer can come and sue you and ask you, why didn't you use this form to protect me?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So paragraph 4 already is protecting FHA and VA.
Yeah.
All right.
Correct. Good question. I'm glad you learned something new. Great. Perfect. All right. So now let's go back to my presentation.
Great job.
Leslie, you put a smile on my face.
Well,
Okay.
honestly, I didn't know. I thought that you could use that for FHA too, but yeah, you're right. It does say it in that's why you have that little portion there where you put the amount that it should appraise in the third party financing addendum. So, but yeah, that's good to know that it's just for conventional.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Good job. Okay. So now let's go on to the rest of the present. So some best practices. Stay organized with your checklist. Miriam and I worked on the checklist, but Miriam did like 90% of it. That checklist is really important. I've embedded it inside the loops. So every loop template has the checklist. It helps you to stay organized. I've been using it religiously, and it really is helpful. Set buyers' expectations early. So whenever you're having your meeting with your buyer, you have a buyer consultation, tell them all the different situations that might happen. You know, multiple offer situation, closing sooner. You know, offering more money for earnest money, all these different strategies that you can do to win an offer. Because sometimes buyers will come to you going, man, I'm getting sick and tired of seeing houses, and every time we see a house, it's gone, from the market. It disappears. I'm getting tired of it. And you can say, well, remember what I told you last time? We can do this and that, the different leverages. Maintain excellent communication with all parties involved. Before you, once they're interested in 2 or 3 houses, call the listing agent. Say, hey, what's motivating the seller to sell? Why are they selling? Are they going to be moving, changing jobs and moving to another state? Or maybe they don't fit in the house, or I'm sorry, they're downsizing because they're empty nesters. What's the situation? Also respond promptly to inquiries. I know we're all busy. We all have busy lives, but even a simple little text like, hey, I'll answer you after 5 o'clock, whatever it is, that's real helpful. And present the listing agent with the complete offer package. Don't send them 10,000 emails. I know when I get offers, I get really upset when I get 3 emails and I'm having to gather all the documents, and it's like a puzzle and I have to grab everything. No, just send 1 email. And then always use the correct TREC forms for compliance as well. It's our responsibility as agents to always ensure we have the latest and greatest forms.
Fernando, I will add something on this one.
Go ahead.
I would say build your own brand too. So let's say sometimes you see some agents are not good and they're not communicating with you. Don't just be like mad with them, calling their broker or do stuff like that. Just build your brand, just talk to them, like be nice to them, because you never know, maybe tomorrow you're going to have a listing that they want to work with you, or they have a listing that you want to work with them. So that's the thing. That is really.
And I love that because you reminded me of what happened to me about 10 years ago. I had worked with an agent and we worked really well, and everything was fine. And then a couple of months later, maybe a year later, I was working with a buyer, and he was an investor, and he goes, Fernando, you think we can get it? I go, yeah, I'm sure we can. And then I called the agent. I go, oh, I had already worked with him in the past. And he goes, hey, Fernando, how's it going? How's life? How's the family? All that kind of stuff. And I say, hey, I got an investor that wants to buy the house. He goes, oh, great. And then there was a multi-offer situation. So the agent calls me. He goes, hey, Fernando, I know I'm not supposed to do this, but if you tweak it this way, he didn't tell me exactly how, but he says, if he gave me hints, he goes, you'll probably get the offer. He goes, I told the seller that you're a wonderful guy to work with. Exactly. And you're very focused and communicative and all that. And that other agent that is also submitting an offer, I don't like him.
And they have to pay.
And we end up winning the offer, right? And then my investor, his name is Dennis, he goes, how did you do that? He goes, I really thought we were gonna not get it. I said, oh, I know people.
It's about building your brand. And
oh yeah. And many agents that I work with, they're like, oh, Fernando, you're such a nice person to work with, and it helps me with my buyers, but good point there, Ali. Okay, we're wrapping it up. Just a little bit of questions to see if y'all can answer this. When working with the buyer, what's the first thing you should make sure they have before you spend your entire Saturday showing them 20 houses? A detailed Pinterest board of their dream home decor, snacks and comfortable shoes for the house hunting marathon, pre-approval letter or proof of funds, or the unwavering belief that you can negotiate a $500,000 home to $250 because my cousin did it once.
Snacks.
Okay, I heard B. No, the answer is C, pre-approval letter or proof of funds. Good try. Okay, the next one is, When your buyer says, we're just looking for now, what do you usually mean? What do they usually mean? They'll buy tomorrow if they find the one. They're secretly testing your patient levels. They want a free weekend tour of model homes, or all of the above.
All of the above.
Yeah, I heard all of the above. That's the correct answer. Okay, last question. Your buyer wants to offer $50,000 under the asking in a multi-offer situation. Your best professional response is, sure, I'll throw in a unicorn with the offer letter. Educate them on the market values and competitions. Show them recent comps to guide their decision, or B and C without the unicorn. Do you know the answer?
I would
Hey.
don't answer their phone anymore.
We
Yeah.
go with the A.
No, it's D, B and C without the unicorn. I'm sorry.
Don't answer their phone. Sorry.
Everybody failed.
No, that's great. Some good news. We're working on a training schedule, trying to finish. I can't believe it's already August. I've been working with Chantal. She's with Fidelity National Title. We discussed training. We have a class August 21st of next Thursday. And I was talking to her today during lunch, and she is so excited about this class because she wants to make you guys an awesome agent during your listing presentations. She says she's going to teach you so much to be awesomeness.
That's a very good class that she's going to teach us. And she used to be a broker, and she's still a broker, 30 years broker.
Yeah, but she doesn't steal nobody. But yes. She's also going to be using the Fidelity Agent One app. I already started using it, and there's also a website. And she's going to show us like a demo of it during this class. And it's amazing. You can, sometimes when we're with a buyer or with a seller and we're talking about how much is the closing cost, we get that question all the time. How much is the closing cost, Fernando? How much do I have to pay? You know, they always ask you these questions. Well, this app, you can literally type in everything, and it grabs the national average interest rate, the national average home insurance costs, the national average everything. So you don't have to worry about going, I wonder how much the house insurance is going to be, or I wonder how much the interest rate is going to be. It just grabs all that, it even grabs the taxes of the property that they might be interested in. And then it tells you that, and you can even do 3 options where you can compare. Like if a buyer wants to see 3 houses and they're wondering which one to buy, this app, you can put each house in there, and then it does a side-by-side comparison. It's amazing.
It gives you the best net sheet. They have the best net sheets available in the market.
Yeah. It's better than the HAR seller's net sheet.
Oh my God.
Oh, because I told her, I said, the HAR seller's net sheet and the HAR buyer net sheet, that's what I've been using personally. She goes, oh, no, Fernando.
And there's a charge for that. She's going to give us 1 year free for all of our agents.
Yep.
No,
Okay.
actually, it's 3 months free, and after that, it's $10 for the whole year.
Yeah, it's $10 for a whole year. I'm like, yes, sir, or yes, ma'am. I said, I'll take it.
Excuse me. Sorry, guys. So what was that app again, if you don't mind
It's
repeating
called Fidelity Agent One app.
She's going to give us the username and password, and then after that.
It's right here. It's right here
cool.
on my screen. Fidelity.
Can you share that one in the group chat? So everybody-
Yes, please. Thank you.
And then Vahid, he's on the line too. He's going to be helping us. I didn't get. I'm sure the topic is incorrect here, but how to generate a correct CMA. I have been getting a lot of inquiries about CMAs from different agents going, Fernando, I need help with, a proper CMA or how to generate a CMA. And of course, now we're starting to sell land as well, or help buyers buy land. And all these CMAs, we're kind of like, you can even do a CMA for rentals, And sometimes some agents go, Fernando, I'm going to be a listing agent for a lease. And how do I approach the landlord regarding rental values? And I go, just do a CMA. And they go, oh, I thought a CMA was just for sales. I go, no, it's also for rentals. And right there, it just blows their mind, So I had asked Vahid, hey Vahid, could you teach about CMAs? And he's really excited. I don't know, Vahid, if you want to say something about
He would be a good one to teach the CMA because he's an investor as well. And he will
Actually,
find it.
yeah, I know there are so many. I talked to so many agents before that they have no idea about CMA. And the way I learned CMA, as Ali mentioned, mostly on like investment part, right? But what I have in mind to first, I show you there are like 3, 4, or 5 different type of CMA that is hard is available to us, right? And you can use all of them. So I want to present first what is available. All of them work the same way. Then I'm gonna start picking on one and show you how to analyze it from A to Z.
Wow.
And how to present it to the client, either the seller or the buyer.
Should we make that class required, like everybody join? Because that's one of the things that the agents, as far as things they should know it, as far as like fiduciary duty.
Oh, of course. Yeah, because whenever you're doing working with the buyer or working with the seller or working with the landlord, even a tenant, CMAs are very critical because, they inform the buyers on the market or the tenants or the landlords.
Also, Vahid has spent a lot of time and he has created a book for the agents, how to be successful for the first 8 weeks when they start becoming an agent. It's A to Z. Somebody has to read it, and if you do it, you will be successful.
Yeah, but he's also a mentor and a coach. But yes, so I'm excited about that, and we have it scheduled for August 28th. I'll be sending everybody a save the date information. So also, if you guys are interested in classes, training for the future, please send us, the leadership team, a note. You can even do it on our Google chat and just say, hey, I would love to hear about X or Y or Z. And,
So Fernando, I see Natalie Robles had a question about why do we send the termination when their option period is ending? Could you please answer that, because it's on the text it says.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the reason why we send terminations is because we have to protect the buyer's earnest money. And if we do not send a termination, then the buyer is saying that they're waiving the option period. And if they ever want to back out the next day, they will lose their earnest money.
Another question that I have for everybody: whenever you go under contract, the minute that you go under contract, tell your buyer to go and drop the check for the earnest money. If you don't drop it within 3 days, your right to termination due to the option period, it will go away. So there's no option anymore. That's very important. You have to drop off the check. If you don't want to drop off, even if you want to terminate, you have to drop off the check and then terminate.
Yes. Yep. Here's some important numbers. Again, if you guys want to send emails, you can always also, for submitting paperwork, the admin, here's our contact information. I think I need to add Vahid in here. But any other additional questions? And I love this perspective on real estate. What my friends think I do, what my mom thinks I do, what customers think I do, what I think I do, what society thinks I do, a car salesman, what I really do. This is the, if you want to be a realtor, this is it.
Oh, it doesn't have that, huh?
Yeah.
I feel like a used car salesman sometimes.
I think customers think the one where the guy with the money. That's Fernando.
And everybody wants our commission.
Yeah.
Everybody
And Ali, I see him as what my friends think I do.
This job is the only job that I see everybody is asking for a commission. Can you split it with me? I don't get it. Why? Can they go and ask a doctor or ask somebody to
Yeah. And Vahid, you're what my mom thinks I do. See, everybody fits their personalities in one of these 6 boxes. Natalie, what do you think you are in this box? You're the car salesman?
I'm like, you know what? You're gonna regret it if you don't buy it. I was talking to a young man yesterday, and I was telling him the importance of buying versus renting, because he makes good money and he'll be a first-time home buyer. He can qualify for down payment assistance, but he really doesn't need it. And he's a police officer, number one. And police officers, I don't know if y'all know, but police officers are scheduled to get really high increases in October.
Oh, really?
So,
That's great.
Yeah.
And also
So
they consider heroes, and sometimes we can give them free closing costs. Like we remove all the closing costs.
yes, there's benefits to what is it called? First responders.
Right.
And then so I was trying to tell this young man, he says, I'm only pre-approved for about 190,000. There's nothing I can do with that money. And I said, oh, I can find you something for that much. And he said, I think I'd rather just go rent a high rise. He wants to go rent a high rise. And I was like, okay, well, you can rent the high rise, but you're going to use the loan also. And you can use the loan, buy the property. I'll send you something that's going to be feasible within your range. And then after you buy that property, you rent it out, and you can go and live in your high rise and pay rent. And
That's a good salesperson.
Yeah.
I said, but you're going to use this loan. And he was like, I didn't mean that. I really didn't mean I was going to go rent a high rise. I was just kidding. I was like, okay, well, we can kid around and still do business.
Okay, so yeah, you do fit the what society thinks I do. Good for you. Good for you. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
What about who else is on the Ali? Can you pick on somebody else that maybe we need to tell them? Okay, which picture are you?
I'm chasing after the dogs and the cats.
Okay, so you're the
That's
dogs and the
for
cats.
sure.
Gotcha. So that's what I think I do. Who else? Who else is on this picture? Anybody that can describe themselves? Is anybody on the last one that says what I really do?
That's me.
And literally your fingers is on your head like that, right? Literally.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, good. Well, okay, guys, thank you for your time. I don't have any questions. Appreciate y'all. And we'll see you next Thursday, and then next Thursday again.
Great participation. We had at 30 agents. That's good.
We did?
I'm proud of you. Yes.
Oh, wow. I can't see anything. I'm blind, but
We're 16 now, but at like 27, 26.
oh, nice. Thank you, guys. All right, well, y'all sleep tonight, and it's the weekend. Be careful, be safe, and let's go sell some real estate.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Fernando, for everything. Thanks, Mr. Wahi. Everybody.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Mama.